What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again talking college football. We are about a week and a half away from week 0. Couple more teams to break down for win totals, week 1 lines, totals, everything you can imagine heading into the season. We're only going to do a couple more of these before we get into full week 0 breakdowns. That will be on Sunday this week. Yes, this Sunday, 6 days before week 0 kicks off. We'll talk about all those games. Time to be determined, but likely looking at something in the range of 9 a.m. Central. But we'll have that available for you guys, but you can plan on that if you would like to talk all things week 0. Today, we're here to talk about South Florida and Missouri State. But before we get there, if you like this content, please consider subscribing to the channel or leaving a like on the video. Comments also help, but as usual, those of you that watch the whole thing, it helps immensely. So thank you if you've done any of that. We do have our summer guide available. It is where all of the information in this video goes first. That means win totals, game lines, and our projections for the players down to all of the statistical levels that could be used for fantasy or best ball. All that is in the Discord. The link is available below if you are interested. But last thing, with us talking about sides, totals, whatnot, if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Okay, so we have one more team to talk about in the American. It is South Florida. Let's pull up the back end and get right into this. We're on the wrong page. All right, here we go. South Florida, coming off one of their best seasons, really since the mid-2010s, and now they're dealing with similar problems. It is kind of what happens to good teams. You lose your head coach. In this case, Alex Golesh goes to Auburn. But now they're kind of taking the same approach, adding another hotshot OC. And this time it's Brian Hartline coming in. The question is, can South Florida replicate the success they had with Alex Golesh in South Florida? This video is going to talk about the new staff, the current roster, and overall health of the program before giving a prediction for the upcoming season. So let's dive right into this and take a look at the overall health of this South Florida program. Right now, they're one of the best recruiters in the American. And part of that is location. Not only a lot of kids come out of South Florida, a lot of players that go to, let's say, Miami, Florida State, even a little bit north in SEC country, a lot of them want to come home. And if they can't get the playing time that they want at these elite schools, they come back to South Florida. So this team has an inherent advantage because of their location. And that shows up not only in recruiting, but also in the transfer portal. Right now, this team is third in talent acquisition over the last 3 years, which is a metric combining the transfer portal with recruiting. And that's dinged a little bit with the coaching change. Every time you see a coach leave and a new one come in, sometimes the players leave. In this case, you lost a lot of elite talent like Byron Brown. Your recruits also have a tendency to potentially consider other programs. South Florida retaining a lot of this talent and remaining as high as they have in transfer portal and recruiting. It's honestly maybe one of the best programs in this conference. You got to deal with Memphis, of course. There's a few others, UTSA, that are up there, but this is one of the best programs. And that's why I think Brian Hartline took this job. We've seen Hartline for a while now with Ohio State, first as a wide receivers coach. Then he takes over OC. And really, the pedigree you're looking for with Hartline is he's kind of an offensive mastermind. And it's not just at designing offenses, but players want to go and learn from him because he's constantly putting out NFL talent, especially at the receiver position. And I think maybe his youth is part of the reason why he's able to connect with some of these younger players still. He's not a very old coach. Now, this will be his first stint as head coach. But one thing you can kind of hang your hat on, Tim Beck is the OC. He brings head coaching experience. So maybe some of the lumps you take as a first-year head coach, you can sort of paper over by having a previous head coach on your staff taking one of the coordinator positions. It at least should give you some advice in tough situations that maybe you're not used to. And Beck, he's not only been an OC for a long time, but the head coaching experience with Coastal Carolina maybe wasn't what we wanted, but it still wasn't bad either. And the offense is going to be more pro style. Last time we saw Beck call an offense, at least at this level, was with NC State. They were about average in pace. Same thing with pass rate. It's going to be pro style. DC is Josh Aldridge, comes over from East Carolina. That unit was 68th last year. He was a talent maximizer as well. So everything inherent with this program is in a pretty good spot, even for year one with Brian Hartline. Let's take a look at the depth chart. Starting with QB, the main things to look out on these charts, first of all, you can see how experienced a player is, what star recruit they were, and then the value score is what's really important. It's a forward-looking metric on a scale of 0 to 100, trying to evaluate how talented a player is, what kind of production can we expect. 100 are all conference type players, 50 is average. So you replace Byron Brown, maybe the best G5 QB in the country last year. He was up there. You go out and you get a 4-star in Michael Van Buren, previously with Mississippi State, previously with LSU. We've actually seen him play a fair amount due to injuries ahead of him. He has a 57.5% completion percentage in his career, 17 big-time throws, and 17 turnover-worthy plays. Actually not the most mobile guy either. He's taken 40 sacks in his career. That has kind of hindered his legs. 117 total rushing yards. The pressure to sack ratio is 24%. As a former 4-star, very clearly a talented player. At the highest levels of competition, the SEC that is, we just saw a few too many turnover-worthy plays and sacks, negative plays in general. If he can cut those down, you could be looking at one of the best QBs in this conference. He certainly is among the most talented. Behind him, you have KJ Cooper from Texas Southern, Luke Crummenhoek from Mississippi State, another former 4-star, previously with Florida State. Probably not really in the mix, but the depth here is better than a lot of teams as well, speaking to how this team is able to cultivate talent. But let's see who this quarterback room will throw to, because I think this is pretty clearly a top 3 QB room in the American. There's a lot of departures, a lot of Auburn players. Keyshawn Singleton, Jeremiah Kroger, Christian Neptune. You do get back a couple pieces. Mudia Rubin, the former Stanford transfer, he is back. Played the slot at times when he wasn't hurt. And last year recorded 495 yards. That was 2.6 yards per route run, albeit on a small sample. Still, very clearly a talented player who originally came from the P4. And then you go the transfer route, and there is a blend of low-level producers, a lot of them from the G6, but you do get some other players that are elite recruits that are coming down, 4-stars, 5-stars coming down. Those players to really start with, Bryson Rogers, the Ohio State 4-star, following Hartline. There's a reason he's following Hartline, and there's a reason Hartline wanted him. This should be a productive player for your team, although he's not very experienced. He's 11 career catches. They're taking a flyer on Cam Seldon, the former 4-star from Virginia Tech and Tennessee. When he was with Tennessee, he played running back. He transfers to Virginia Tech, where they change his position. He starts playing receiver. 98% of his time he spent in the slot, but he caught 165 passes. That was 1.4 yards per route. He's young to the position, so there's clearly some upside. He's a very talented player, but he's kind of built more like a Deebo Samuel. So we'll see where they kind of align. Rubin, Seldon, both of them were in the slot previously. But there are other options. Kenny Odom was a high-level producer with UTEP, former Austin Peay transfer. He had 586 yards. That was 1.8 yards per route. And then the year after, he had 2.0 yards per route. This is a guy that has over 1,300 yards combined the last 2 seasons. You have Armani Winfield from Colorado State. Maybe not as productive as some of the players we've already mentioned, but he's another former Baylor 4-star. And even when you get deeper than this, Armand Branch, situational contributor with Purdue. There's a few other players. Jaden Alexis is back. We haven't seen a lot of Jaden Alexis recently. The 4-star Texas transfer's just kind of been battered with injuries since 2023. He's still here. Joshua Porter's still here. He played 161 snaps. Jaquan Smith is still here. Even like a Jerron Glover, who's sort of been a career underachiever with Mississippi State and Michigan State, is here. This room goes 9 deep, maybe at wide receiver. Depth certainly is not a concern, and I would argue talent at the top is among the best in this conference. We have it ranked number 1 among wide receiver rooms in the American. Tight end, Wyatt Sullivan returns. This is a guy that had 18 catches, not the best blocker, but played quite a bit for this team. He has over 950 snaps combined the last 2 seasons. He's very experienced, maybe just a little limited. But they go out and they add more transfers. Cade Catan comes over from Oregon, a high 3-star recruit, just coming over, clearly seeking more playing time. And then you have Luke Clyburn coming from Furman. He is very specific, and normally we wouldn't include a player like this, but he was basically a 6th offensive lineman at 6'7", 265. He'll probably play a role for this team, but there's also like an Evan Dangler. He played 269 snaps. He's also mainly a blocker, 15 pounds lighter than a Clyburn, but still a talented player. We have this tight end room ranked 2nd in the American. Offensive line, last year they were very good. 19th in pass blocking, 76th in run blocking. Every starter is gone except Thomas Schrader. He's been a stalwart for this group for a while now, a multi-year starter. Former transfer, originally played with Florida State and App State. 23 pressures allowed. He was a better pass protector than run blocker last year, but that's a good place to start. He should hold down left guard. And when you go through the rest of the interior, Cash Hudson comes over from Missouri State to play center. He was a 3-year starter. Never really even reached average play, but that was largely due to poor run blocking. He's a decent pass protector, but 2 of those seasons were also in the FCS. Only last year did he play in the FBS as Missouri State transitioned up. You have Caleb Cook, a Georgia Southern transfer. He's probably going to play right guard. He's a 2-year starter. Decent run blocker, but very good in pass pro, 11 pressures, 1 sack. So if your interior group is comprised of those players, I think you feel pretty good about it. Hudson's really the only semi-weak link, but there's a couple other options too. Julius Tate, he's played 489 snaps. He's probably going to be at least a swing piece for the interior. But let's talk about tackle. You bring in Ethan Green, who's 6'7", 313 from Cincinnati. Probably going to play one of the tackle spots. We have him listed at right, clearly coming down seeking more playing time. There are some incumbents that probably get a look because handful of snaps last year, handful of snaps here and there. Caleb Harris, TJ Lawrence, and Braden Carter are those names. Carter or Harris, probably your most likely. We have Harris on the depth chart, redshirt freshman, largely because he's a decent recruit. But there are some other options like a Michael Wooten, an Arizona transfer. Not the best and only played 320 snaps and mostly a guard. You have a Navy transfer in Jalen Acevedo. He was 40th percentile last year. Kahari Finley from Morgan State was 34th percentile. So some of these transfers that might be listed other places probably are not your best options even in the American. I'd rather just see a youthful player that has some upside rather than a proven disappointment at least the American level of competition, and sometimes even worse in the case of like a Finley who really struggled with Morgan State in the FCS. But regardless, this offensive line comes in 6th in the American. That's a little bit above average, and that's with the tackle concerns we mentioned. Running back for this team is a bit up in the air. They're losing Nakahi Davenport. Alvin Isaac is back, and he did flash on a small sample. 372 yards, 5 yards per carry with 13 catches. My main problem is he's small, 5'9", 185, but efficiency was solid enough. I do think you see some sort of committee, and probably Dartmouth transfer DJ Crowther is the main player to look at. He is bigger, 205 pounds, and he was a 91st percentile producer in the FCS. The main concern I think you have is he played in the FCS for a long time, and he was kind of just bench fodder for 3 years before he eventually broke out. That's not the most redeeming quality, but he at least has some profile that we can look back on. There are a couple other guys like Jason Collins Jr. from Morgan State, 60th percentile. Trey Kinkle comes over for year 2, hasn't really played much. We still have the running back room ranked 4th in the American. It's a quality unit. Defense. Last year, this unit finished 77th in run defense, 8th in pass rush, losing quite a bit off the edge, including DJ Harris, Denard Flowers. But former Ohio State 5-star CJ Hicks came over with Heartline. This is probably the most raw talent on the entire team, a 5-star down here. When he's played, it's also been good. This isn't a guy that was never on the field. He played 276 snaps, and he was good when he was out there, clearly seeking more playing time. Michael Williams is also back injury shortened season for him, but he has 963 snaps in his career. He's been pretty good overall with 65 pressures. His run D is okay. He should handle that second spot, and he's 260 pounds. That's a lot of size between your first two guys. Shamar Michael and Marshawn Oxley are two transfers that'll likely contribute to some degree. Neither of them have played a ton. Michael has 14 pressures through his career. Oxley has 9. There's also like a Levi Smiley or an Ashton Mosley further down the depth chart. But inside, you're also losing 3 players like a Josh Seliskar, Devin Lee, Travion Mitchell. This will probably be led by transfers. Asani Redwood from West Virginia comes over. He's kind of struggled throughout his career, and he's 296, but he has 995 snaps in his career. Really, what you're hoping for is that the drop in competition from the Big 12 to the American can boost some of the efficiency for him. He's kind of consistently been a slightly below average player. You get more Morgan State transfers. Major Dillard's been getting some hype, but he was only 59th percentile down in the FCS. Probably a rotational piece. You have incumbents like Ryan Jenkins. He's played 220 snaps the last 2 years. Terry Simmons, not a real proven producer, but he's huge, and he comes from Duke. Right now, probably one of the bigger players on this defensive line outside of like a Dillard. There's even a couple deeper guys like a Richard Scott, Jahari Grant. Terrell Jones from Virginia is still here. We have the defensive line ranked 6th, but there's pretty clearly upside for them to finish higher. Part of that just predicated on your 5-star, CJ Hicks, and maybe not playing like a Dillard from Morgan State, probably not, or Norfolk State, probably not the best option there. But let's talk linebackers. They're getting a 4-star, Grayson Howard from Florida. He has a lot of production. Now, the snaps in the SEC were average, but he played 537 of them. And mainly the concern, probably just coverage. 82% catch rate. He was actually very good in run defense. He's 6'4", 236. So yeah, you're losing Mac Harris, you're losing Jalen Schuler, but a 4-star Florida transfer in Grayson Howard's a good place to start. You also have Xavier Hamilton, who played 205 snaps as a freshman, now entering sophomore season. The main problem with him was 9 missed tackles, and he was still above average in run defense even with that. You get Rodney Hill back, 148 snaps. Also, flash on limited production. Strong run defender. Rutgers transfer Sam Robinson, probably a depth piece. You have a sophomore in Gavin Leach. We have this room, the linebacker room, ranked 6th in the American as well. Let's finish with the secondary. Likely mostly transfers. Last year, they were 71st in coverage, but the only returning starter they really have is Tavin Ward. Great run defender. He was 3rd on the team with 60 tackles. He's a 3-year starter, so it makes sense that he didn't want to leave. Good coverage numbers as well, only a 53% completion percentage. But the other safety spots up for grabs, there is an incumbent in like Cedric Hawkins. I don't think he really plays much, but he played 154 snaps last year. He is a former 4-star, which is worth mentioning. But you do have Georgia Southern transfer Aiden Jackson, who's a multi-year starter. It's been a little up and down. I imagine those two will probably compete. But there's a couple other names. North Carolina 4-star Malcolm Ziegler's here. West Virginia transfer Israel Boyth is here. There's a couple players at safety that might play more of a role than we think. But getting to corners, Zaquan Bryan from Minnesota is likely to start. 731 snaps in his career, only a 54% completion percentage. Some of these transfers are actually fairly productive at higher levels. So this is a pretty good unit overall. Likely looking at a battle at your other corner spot. One name that comes up is Auburn 4-star Amon Lane Gaines. He's coming down seeking more playing time, but I kind of think Kansas State transfer Amarian Fortenberry will beat him out. They're about the same size. Fortenberry was originally with South Alabama, where he played really well in 2024. Just didn't get as much playing time at Kansas State. So that'll be a battle. There is like a Florida transfer and Teddy Foster still on the team. But when you look at the nickel, it's probably BYU transfer Tavion Beasley. 305 snaps there last year. He was average in the Big 12. So previously played for San Diego State and Jackson State. Numbers have been a little up and down through his career, which is a concern. But the solid play with BYU should give you some confidence. We have the secondary ranked 7th in the American. And getting to kicker, they have Nico Gramatica back. Missed only 1 extra point. 18 of 24 on field goals. He was decent from length. He had a couple sprays, but he was 9 of 14, 40 plus, 2 of 5 on 50 plus. Let's take a look at how the roster stacks up. So clearly an above average team across the board, every single position. We have the offense slightly ahead of the defense, which should come as no surprise. Heartline's going to attract talent on that side of the ball, especially at QB and wide receiver. And funny enough, he sure did attract talent at wide receiver. They're number one in this conference. The overall power rank we have is 72nd on this team, which is towards the top of the country in terms of just G5 ranks, G6 ranks. We're right in line with the win total. However, it's 8.5, juice slightly to the under, and we are at 8.4. But here's how we get there. This team opens up against Florida International. The line is 13, so we're actually a little short on that. The only real concern I have is first college game for Heartline as the head coach. But I kind of think they smash Florida International. And from there, they get a tricky week 2. You have to travel to Army and prepare for the triple option. That has me a little bit nervous. Fortunately, after that, you're back to non-con with 2 cupcakes, Delaware State, and probably Bowling Green before you finish out the rest of your conference play with a rogue Kent State game in there. But kind of when you set up this non-conference for South Florida, you have FIU, Delaware State, Bowling Green, and Kent State. There's a pretty good chance you're 4-0. So now you have a win total sitting at 8.5. Can you pick up 5 more? When you look at the conference schedule, Army's going to be tough. Memphis and Florida Atlantic probably tough, but there's some other winnable games here. Temple, certainly winnable. East Carolina's down this year. UAB's down this year, and even Tulane's a little bit down this year. This is not a team I want to bet against. And with the really easy non-conference schedule, this could be, if everything comes together, a team that wins the conference and has maybe 1 loss. Part of the issue with your G6 playoff representatives, the ones that play brutal non-cons, if you just lose like 3 games total, you're kind of out of the picture. But if you play a non-con like South Florida and you don't lose any of those games, and then maybe you come out of conference play with 1 loss, that could very well be a playoff position. So South Florida is really interesting. I like this team quite a bit. I think they're poised to not really drop off, even though changing head coaches. All right, let's look at the chat. A couple of you watching, thanks for being here. I very much appreciate it. We're going to talk Missouri State. Again, we're kind of not pumping the brakes, but easing off the gas as we get towards week 0. Sunday, we're going to break down the week 0 game. So only a couple more teams we're going to do this week as we prepare for that show. And then we'll have the full schedule out for the regular season. But let's move forward. We do have another team. This was a request, a Missouri State from Conference USA, a team I was actually very curious to talk about too. All right. Missouri State, year 2 in the FBS, actually coming off a quality season in year 1. This team went 7-6. They went to a bowl game, but now more adversity. You're losing your head coach, Ryan Beard. He goes to Coastal Carolina. This is more adversity. You now hire a brand new head coach in Casey Woods. What does this team do to maintain their FBS success? This video is going to talk about Woods, the new staff, overall roster health, and then we'll break down what to expect for this upcoming season. So let's take a look at Missouri State. Awesome finish in year 1 in the FBS. So this team is coming in towards the bottom in overall conference rankings. Should be no surprise. That's kind of what happens for teams that make the jump. But they are 9th in talent acquisition when you look at their overall blend of recruiting and transfer portal. Now, there is a little bit of nuance here. For example, they have 100% of their 2024 class. That class consisted of 3 recruits that were ranked, and 2 of them were 2-stars. So some of these classes are tiny, but overall, the team is improving in recruiting and transfer portal usage. They almost cracked the top 100 this year in transfer portal usage, but they bring in an exciting coach. Casey Woods is the former SMU OC. That offense has been electric. You have Mark Calla taking over OC duties. He was at UTEP before that, but previously with TCU as a QB's coach. They have not named their play caller. So I'm kind of interested to see who runs the show here. But regardless, I think you're going to see a lot of pass-friendly offense and probably quite a bit of pace with the blend of Casey Woods and Calla. Your DC is Jack Curtis. He takes over after working as an Auburn analyst. Previously was the Tulane DC from 2016 to 2020, Liberty co-DC from 21 to 23. There's a bit of experience here. For a team that is clearly a little bit strapped for resources, I like what they did with the coaching staff. They should be talent maximizers in the long run. But let's talk about the depth chart for Missouri State. What you're going to see on the screen is how experienced these players are. You can see their snaps the last 2 years, what recruit they were in terms of a star. The value score is what's important. It's a 0 to 100 scale. Looking forward, trying to give you an expectation what to expect this year. 100 is the best, 50 is about average. So there's a bit of a battle going on for Missouri State. I know Henry Bellin has been banged up, but just bear with me. I wouldn't be surprised to see Locklear win this job because of it, but we'll talk about them both. They need to replace Jacob Clark, who was awesome actually for this team. Henry Bellin comes from Duke, so he's kind of the higher end starter. I guess I should say prospect. Hasn't started many games, to be honest, but he's 6'3", 225. We've seen him with only one big-time throw, 4 turnover-worthy plays, but 3.4 yards per carry despite 3 sacks. There's just not a lot to go on with him, but he certainly is a higher-end recruit, higher-end talent than a player like Skylar Locklear, who comes over from UTEP, and we've seen Locklear play quite a bit. He has a 59.5% completion percentage, only 6.8 yards per attempt, 26 big-time throws, 21 turnover-worthy plays, does run a little bit, 633 yards there, and he has clear continuity with the offensive staff. The OC, listed on paper at least, we're not sure about play calling, brought over Locklear. So this should maybe be a feather in his cap. It's hard to really parse what UTEP was last year, though. That offense was largely devoid of talent. Locklear did struggle at times, but was that Locklear? Was that just UTEP being an inept program? It's kind of hard to say. Regardless, the Missouri State QB room ranks 9th in Conference USA. This unit does have a bit of ways to travel, just largely due to lack of experience and talent at the program. Wide receiver, this team is losing quite a bit. Dash Luke graduated. Ronald Johnson went to Jacksonville State, but they do return Jamarie Robinson, who caught 44 passes for 632 yards. That was good for 1.7 yards per route. That's above average. And he primarily played their slot receiver. Now in his career, he has 127 catches for 1,708 yards. Should be a quality returning starter. There are a couple other players that also elected to return, like Makai Cope and James Blackstrain. And the two things these guys have in common, good recruits, came from P4 programs. Makai Cope was with Utah. He's 6'3", 210, caught 20 passes for 269 yards. He'll play on the perimeter. James Blackstrain is a former Georgia Tech 4-star. He caught 22 balls for 224 yards, also a perimeter receiver. They have good size on the perimeter, and when your slot receiver is Robinson at 6'1", it's actually quite a bit. Now, when you get below this, you start looking at transfers that can contribute. Makai Miller is an interesting case coming over from Tulsa. He's hard to evaluate because he's played at some elite programs. He originally was with Missouri where he caught 32 passes, just really inefficient there. Goes down to Tulsa where he's played more of the slot. 9 catches in 4 games before missing the rest of the season. So Miller is sort of a wild card to look at. I think there's a chance he's a lot better than we might think. Isaiah Myers also comes from Western Kentucky. Hasn't really played a lot. His most productive seasons came with Charlotte. So there are a couple interesting pieces for this room. We actually have it ranked towards the top of the conference. We have it 2nd overall. If they can get Bellin or Locklear together, this could be a quality passing attack. Tight end, they have maybe not the best production. There is some upside, though. It was really young last year. It's still really young, honestly. Jaron Askren, 26 catches on 510 snaps, average blocking, still a sophomore, redshirt sophomore. But you can kind of see a path. Whit Edwards comes over from Vanderbilt. He's a 4-star sophomore, clearly seeking more playing time. Dylan Hipp is a sophomore. He's a former Ole Miss transfer. There's actually quite a bit of talent in this tight end room. We have it ranked 2nd in the conference. The main concern is just inexperience, and Askren kind of fills that. So let's look at the offensive line. This unit is my biggest concern, and it is a pretty massive concern right up there with QB. Last year, this unit was awesome. We just talked about one of their transfers they lost. Cash Hudson went to South Florida. Mark Hutchinson graduated. Ebubudike Nabuagu went to South Carolina. Eric Cade graduated. So your only returning starter is Matthew Green, the former UNLV transfer. Pretty good in pass pro. Run blocking was a little below average. All of that sort of sets up for a slightly below average player with Matthew Green. He should handle at least one of the guard spots. Makete Gay is the other potential guard. We haven't really seen him, but he is a former Louisville transfer. You could maybe see him playing left tackle. He is 6'6", but a lot of the projections have him at guard, so we'll go with that. And then to round out the interior, you have Jackson State transfer Isaiah Villanueva. He played 344 snaps last year, and the main concern is that they were atrocious. 4 pressures, poor run blocking metrics. He's a huge concern. So you probably are looking to replace him. There are some options like Julius Dumas is a good 3-star recruit. Logan Scrivener, Ben Ledke played a few snaps last year. They should deserve a look over Villanueva. I have no idea if he can even play at this level of competition because he really couldn't play in the FCS with Jackson State. Now, tackle probably is a little better. King Large comes over from SMU. A pretty decent recruit. He's just very clearly seeking more playing time. Only a redshirt freshman, so I don't know how Missouri calculates these redshirt freshmen because he's already been at SMU for 2 years, but maybe there's an injury redshirt or something like that. Colleges clearly are a little confused based on some court rulings that the NCAA has really struggled with this year. But the other one, probably Braden Thompson. He played 54 snaps. There are a couple other options like VMI transfer, William Dixon. The problem is he was 39th percentile in the FCS. He's never been good down there. There's like a Chase Mado, Santiago Castillo. This unit is 9th in Conference USA, and I'm not really sure there's much of a path other than rapid, unexpected development from some of these players. There's just too many really low-level FCS guys that are probably going to at least be in the 2 deep. Running back for this team, they do bring in a really interesting John Brace Dubar, and he was very good when he got work with Boise State. 4.8 yards per carry. He's never dropped a pass or fumbled. Really good yards after contact numbers and forced missed tackles. He's at least going to play in a rotation with Ramon Green Jr., and I wouldn't be surprised if he plays quite a bit, but probably not because Green is such a good pass catcher. He didn't drop a single target last year. He caught 28 balls, over 400 yards, and even as a rusher, 5.3 yards per carry is pretty good, but he's 5'9", 190. Dubar is 205. There's a couple of younger players, Iverson Young, King Davis, not experienced whatsoever, but decent depth that have been here for a bit. Overall, biggest limitation with the offense, what are you getting on an offensive line in QB? If those can come together, there's shockingly high upside. Defense. Missouri State was 101st in run defense, 70th in pass rush last year. Losing quite a bit. DJ Wesolak is the main departure. He went to Coastal Carolina following Ryan Beard. So first place you go to, former Kansas 4-star Dylan Brooks is coming in seeking playing time. Big problem with him has been injuries. He's been hurt the last 2 seasons. We haven't seen him since he played 103 snaps in 23. He's an upside play. He originally was with Auburn. You just need him to stay healthy. He is a 4-star. There is a Miami, Ohio transfer. Josh Lacusa, 686 career snaps, 35 pressures, consistently above average. He should be able to handle this level of production. You have Kellen Lindstrom from Tennessee, a 4-star, clearly just seeking more playing time. This edge group is good. Caden Weist is your most experienced. He'll probably see around the same number of snaps without injury. And he was decent, 11 pressures and solid run defense when we saw him. The edge group is really good. Inside, Ahmad Poole went to Coastal Carolina. Tim Brantley is your best returner. He was a good, for the most part, run defender. 13 pressures is kind of where he really excelled with 352 snaps. You're likely looking at some form of rotation. The rest of this unit has a bit of, let's say, a lack of depth. Because even when you look at some of the better transfers, like UMass transfer Malachi Madison, he pretty much got kicked off the team because of behavior issues. What do you get out of him? He's a wild card. He actually was decent when he played, but you don't like that. He's a former Virginia Tech transfer before he went to UMass. Markel Chapman comes from Iowa State, but let's not get this confused. He didn't play in the Big 12, and he previously came from JUCO. These guys are very dicey. So basically a JUCO transfer because of the inexperience with Iowa State. What do you get out of him? Maybe this is more his speed, though. Anthony Madison is also in the mix. He's a current JUCO transfer. So interior, much more of a concern than the edge group. But when you put it all together, we have the D-line ranked 4th in Conference USA. Linebacker, Jared Lloyd is back. He was a quality player last year. Multi-year starter. Tied Kanye Young with 77 tackles to lead the team. Very, very good run defense. Coverage was a bit dicey, 76% completion percentage for 243 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 PBU. But when he was moving forward, he was awesome. Your other linebacker, we listed Cooper Roy here. He's a bit of a hybrid player. We saw him kind of play linebacker, kind of play DB. He's 225 pounds. The main problem was 7 missed tackles. He allowed 5 catches, which were all of his targets to be completed. So there is some concern there. There are a couple other guys like a Jayshon Cooper. He's played a little bit through his career. UTEP transfer Stratton Schufelt came over after kind of a rocky season. There's a former JUCO transfer in Martavis Blackman still on the team. We didn't get much of him last year. This unit ranks 8th in Conference USA. And to round it out, the secondary, they were 69th in coverage last year. They're losing almost everybody. The main players, Jordan Dunbar was a UDFA, a couple depth pieces. But at safety, you do get Christian Ford back, 763 snaps. He was an average run defender with 52 tackles. Coverage was kind of a mess, 75% completion percentage for 240 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did have 1 pick, though. But you're probably going to see him start. The other player to watch is J.J. O'Neal. He did not play after week 4, but he did play 683 snaps in 2024. Missed 19 tackles, so run defense was a bit of an issue, but he was better in coverage. So if you can piece both of their skill sets together, you might be looking at decent safety play. It's a concern for me. When you get to the corner position and your nickel position, Dylan Dixon, 609 snaps. He's a former Colorado transfer. He's another player that had a lot of issues with missed tackles. He missed 14. This was a huge concern with him last year. He also allowed 40 catches. So no surprise, he's coming in way below average. Your actual corners, Kent State transfer Joel Boama, 311 snaps the last 3 years, pretty up and down. You have a Duquesne transfer and Joel Passu, who didn't even quite meet snap thresholds down there, but he was 75th percentile in the FCS. There's like a Devin Rutherford, a Darion Taylor for deep depth, but this unit has a lot of concerns. We have it ranked last in Conference USA. The back 7 could be a big problem. So if that edge rush doesn't get home quickly, you could be looking at some problems. I'm not sure the kicking game is very good either. Yusuf Obaid was pretty bad last year. He did miss only 1 extra point, but he was 14 of 22 on field goals. He was 6 of 13 on 40 plus, and he was 0 of 3 on 50 plus, basically no range. And he was very erratic. Even just going back to games, I watched him play. But let's look at how this team stacks up overall on Conference USA. We have Missouri State power ranked 131st. Their win total is 4.5. It's basically right in line with where we have it. When you factor in juice, the win total is basically effectively 4 wins. We're at 4.04. Best groups, defensive line and wide receiver, with enough holes in between where I am concerned with Missouri State. Their schedule is interesting. They play Texas A&M in week 1. That has slaughtering written all over it. But they go to Lindenwood, where they, I guess, host Lindenwood in week 2. That's a spot where you could get one of those wins back. You round it out with Marshall and SMU, probably looking at a 1-3 start for this team, and then you get into conference play where there's a lot jumbled up in Conference USA overall. Most likely wins are probably Kennesaw State, Sam Houston, and New Mexico State, but there's always going to be tricky midweek spots. You play on short weeks twice. After the bye, you play Western Kentucky, short week against Kennesaw. Immediately after, short week on the road against Delaware. So it definitely is not going to come easy, and there are hard games. Certainly your road trips away at Western Kentucky, away at Delaware. Those are probably the 2 best teams in the conference. The other team that's right up there is Liberty. That game is at home, but it's your season finale. Tough season for Missouri State. It's going to be a pass for us. So no surprise seeing them come as a near 40-point underdog to Texas A&M. Frankly, that might not be enough. We might be light on that. I will be considering Texas A&M, all things considered. We deep this morning, 12 people watching. That is awesome to see. Thank you guys. So those are the only two teams we're going to talk about today. Here's the plan. Thursday, I'll be doing probably Sacramento State and Eastern Michigan. That is a week 0 game, which I am preparing for. They're the only 2 week 0 teams we didn't break down in full. I'm debating just leaving that for the Sunday show, which will probably be at 9 a.m. Central Time. So that's the plan moving forward. And from there, we will likely just be doing our regular schedule following exactly what we did last year, but more live shows. We'll do a Sunday night recap show, which will just talk about the week we just saw, anything weird we saw, talk about bets we made, everything like that, whatever you guys want to hear about, really. And then immediately Monday morning, planning on doing 8 a.m. live shows, Monday through Thursday, just talking about all the games, whether they're weekday, elite Saturday games, trying to break it all down. So that's kind of the flow we'll have moving forward as week 0 approaches. But thank you guys for watching. We'll be back again very soon. More details to come on the in-season schedule. But until then, good luck. We'll see you guys again later. And thanks again for watching.